Domo arigato, as they say here in Japan at Suzuka. You join us all for the round one of part two in the RWB 2021 GT series. I'm Josh, and with me is, who are you, James?
Just some normal bloke commentating on some absolutely epic racing from RWB races.
Yeah, so with me is professional British GT4 driver James Kell. Check him out on Twitter, Instagram, all that stuff. Don't worry, James, I'll plug for you. So welcome to everyone. Just to get the kind of, what I do best out of the way. We've got pitwall.live available if you want to come and also, while watching the stream, seeing all the timings, the splits, the deltas, who's pitting, where all the incidents are. That's all there on pitwall.live. If you want to see more from us, it's subscribe to RWB, and you'll get notified whenever we go live for this, the Saturday series, and the upcoming Tuesday Constructors Championship, which is also moving to GT4's, and then there's, of course, endurance racing coming up later. And if you enjoy the racing on the stream and you want to get involved, join RWB through the Discord link found in the description of the YouTube channel, or even if you just type it on Google, you'll find it, no problem. Some things have changed since part one. My beard's gotten longer. I've got some hair now. James is, he decides he doesn't like running anymore.
Running in the rain.
Yeah, whatever. Excuses are excuses, Excuses are like assholes, James. Everyone's got one, so there we go.
And it's full of shit.
Yes, it is full of shit. But seeing how we're only just beyond the watershed, let's keep it PG for a little bit longer than 2 seconds of the stream starting. So for those of you who followed us in part one of this series, it was fantastic. We're kind of alternating between a tier 1 and a tier 2. As you can see on the stream right now, on the left-hand side, we've got our lovely little, I don't even, what do you call that, James? Leaderboard? Yeah, we'll go for a leaderboard. We've got a leaderboard. Yeah. We've got a leaderboard on the left, and as you can see, we've got some white numbered, some numbers with the white background, some numbers with the red background. The white background ones are the guys in the tier 1, and the red ones are the guys in the tier 2. So they've all been combined into one big grid. So hopefully we'll see a lot more action between the 2-tier guys. Maybe we'll see some strategic thinking of letting people in other tiers through. Maybe we just don't know. But yeah, lots of differing paces and levels now. But hopefully that leads to clean action. What do you think, James?
Yeah, it's good to see them all combined into one big tier now, and I think especially with these GT4 cars, it's going to be great to watch these guys blast around Suzuka today. And I think everyone's chosen their new cars for this season, part of the season, and they'll all be getting used to how they behave in quali pace as well as race pace and amongst other cars. So they're going to have a bit of learning to do, moving from a GT3 car with a bit more aero, a bit more power, to something that's a bit more momentum based, a bit more road car-esque, lots more body roll. So yeah, they're going to have to get their head around that pretty quick in the race and adapt and survive. And I think Suzuka is going to be a great track to see them race around. So I'm really looking forward to it, and hopefully we'll be in for a good one today.
Well, luckily, as I said, James is a GT4 driver, so he can offer us a lot more insight than he can for a GT3 car. But yeah, it's going well so far. We do have the quali results. Me being me, I didn't really pay attention to what was happening with the tiers because I've been busy with moving and drinking my flat tenants. So I do have the top 10 from qualifying, which will run through a little closer to the race start, probably around 20 past, which will be 10 minutes before the race. So you've still got plenty of time if you've joined us to go off, grab a beer, some snacks, get comfy so you can enjoy the close racing that will happen ahead. And of course, as James said, GT4 cars, they roll a bit more and all that. So that kind of sounds like British touring cars to my ears.
Oh, a bit more rubbing as racing. And I think that might be the case with these cars today. Yeah, definitely a lot less crucial bodywork on these things. They don't produce a lot of aero. They don't have a lot of aero effect as well. So these guys could definitely rub alongside each other a bit more and not worry too much about losing that aero efficiency. I mean, obviously it still plays a factor in some of the high speed stuff, but it's not as big a factor as the mechanical grip. So yeah, I suspect these guys can definitely get a bit closer to each other now, and they won't have as much aero wash to deal with. So it's going to be great to see, and all these slightly different characteristics of each car. I think they're more predominant in the GT4 pack than the GT3s. The GT3s are all sort of quite level over a season, but some of the GT4 cars have the nuances of their road car variants. So it's going to be interesting to see how they behave across the rest of this season.
Yeah, another thing I noticed when I was playing about with the GT4s is they don't have the same level of setup that you can do as with the GT3s. I mean, for one, the Macca GT4 car, its brake bias is set in stone. You can't even change that, which, well, I'd like a more forward brake bias, but yeah, it's just in that car it's locked, and there's a lot of cars out there that have things that on the GT3 variants it's not locked and you can do anything you want, but on these, I mean, some of these cars, in fact, most of them, I think, don't even have the difference between fast bump and slow bump dampers, which, yeah, it just blew my mind.
Yeah, no, that is the case. I mean, we have less to play with setup-wise than the GT3 guys do, and I've heard from various sources that it's harder to get into a GT4 car and drive it quick. And be on the pace, or be within a few percent of the pace than it is to jump in a GT3 car, surprisingly. You've got to really stay on top of the tyre, and you've got to be at maximum grip the whole time, otherwise you're going to be losing. And GT3s, you can sort of get away with it, it's a bit more point and square in places, and you've got that aero to sort of carry you in a bit more if you make a few mistakes. With these cars, you don't have that. I mean, it's a lot more momentum based, and getting that good run out the corner is even more crucial.
Well, seeing how you seem to be a professional about, running corners and everything, I'm going to try and find someone who's coming up to the end of their lap and starting a new one so that we can jump aboard and watch them.
Yeah,
unfortunately, I'm having absolute trash luck at finding one.
It's a long lap round Suzuka, I have to admit, and some big wide open straight, so we'd expect to see some of the higher power cars probably go a little bit better around Suzuka than some of the more finesse and handling based cars. So I believe we're on board. Is it Pinpoint?
Martin Pater currently in the number 48.
So we're coming into actually the last section, which is the Casino Triangle. It's a short right, left, right section onto the last curve, which is what this is called. This brings you on. Typical. And this is the pit lane.
Right, we'll bring up the track map so we can judge who's going around. Number 37, you are up. Where is number 37? There's so many cars now.
Is it not the? Oh yeah.
We're going to lose it?
It's like a guessing game. Quite like this.
Found him.
Okay, so coming down the pit straight right now, and actually coming into turn 1, which is called the first corner, surprisingly, which is actually comprised of turn 1 and turn 2, which is just here. 2 apexes sort of clip on the way in and clip on the way out. You get a really good run into this section called the snake, or the S curves. You've got a left, right section. This one, it's quite tricky, it's quite complex. You've got to get the run just right and sacrifice a bit of the left, bit of the right occasionally. Just keep it tight through this right-hander, which is referred to as the anti-bank curve. It's a bit off camber, and then you've got to fire it through Dunlop here on the left-hander and get a really good run up the hill towards the Degners. And this is a long left-hander, and you've got to keep it pinned all the way into a big break. It's only got to get stopped a little bit, fire it through Degner 1, let it run right out, get back on the throttle a little bit, and then brake hard for Degner 2, fire it in, it cambers up, picks the front up, and then you can get on the throttle to go up the hill towards the hairpin. There's a little kink before it, which I believe is turn 10, and then you've got a big stop for the hairpin, wait, and you've got to turn in. Say you want to turn in a little bit later than this driver has just at the moment, and run it right out to the apex and get a good run through. Some people just don't refer to this as a name, but some refer to it as 200R, so that was what we were just going through at the moment. It's just a long sweeping right-hander, which brings you to the spoon curve, so you've got a big break here, roll off, fire it through, but you've got to be so patient on the throttle, because if you get on too early here, you just push the nose, end up in the gravel on the right hand side, and you basically lose all this pace down the section back stretch, which is a very long sort of uphill section from now on, and you cross over the track runs underneath you from the Degners, which we're about to go over just now. Please don't go back.
Oh, don't do it.
Oh no! And it was the best corner as well, which is 130R. Oh my god.
We're having absolutely no luck today. Everyone seems to be
No.
against us.
Oh, I'd love to see cars fly through 130R because it just shows how committed the drivers are.
Here we go.
Yes,
On board with Dave
this is-
Crew now.
Okay, Dave Crew, 130R, little bit of a brake, roll it through, and then just ease that throttle on right to the exit point. What a brilliant section that is. Straight back over to the left, back into the Casino Triangle, a big stop. There's quite an aggressive curve on the right and the left here. So if you've got a car that can ride that, you can obviously sneak it a little bit more and fire it down onto this pit straight, out of the last curve, which is funny enough the last corner, and over the start-finish line. So it's going to be really good to see these guys compete around here, and I think the cars with the bigger horsepower, the more grunt based cars, I think are going to do a little bit better here than some of the finesse cars that we're talking about. So I think the Ginetta might struggle a little bit around here, the Alpine. I'm surprised the Porsches actually are quite high up, because they're usually a bit more unfavoured in the GT4 field. I mean, we don't really have many of them, actually none in British GT, and even in GT Europe, they're not. I'd say they're not quite the best performing car, but they're getting there. They're getting better all the time, and with the new Sprint Challenge in the UK, they're becoming more refined for sure. But I'm not surprised to see the Mercedes at the front, nor the BMW, nor the Aston. I think those cars, and the Chevrolet as well, actually is doing quite well. So I think those cars are really one to watch out for on this track, and they'll be performing quite well. But yeah, that's Suzuka in a stagnated form.
Yeah, a very cracked nutshell right there for us. But yeah, it's it's currently 23 minutes past. So it's about 7 minutes until the race starts. So usually try and keep it on for nose at 9:30 for the start of a race, rather than letting practice run all the way through. They don't do qualifying on the day; they do that during the week, and I can give you the top 10 rundown for these qualifying bits, as we see people already going for moves in practice session. No one really kind of gives a fuck, do they? If it's practice, they all want a race now, which is good news for us, because that means everyone's eager and ready to go for it. But qualifying, for the top 10 from qualifying, we have Alistair Howe and Phil Varley in P10 and P9 respectively. They're in the two Aston Martins on the back row. Ahead of them is David Dewar and Rick Binnersley in P8 and P7. The third row of the grid has Mohamed Karolia in P6 and Tom Weaver in P5. The second row of the grid sees the Porsches of Olivier Curtin in P4 and Jay Madley in P3. And the front row is locked out by the Mercedes of Usama Karolia in P2 and pole position taken by Ignacy Buchek. So it's, the front row locked out by Mercedes, and then the second row locked out by Porsches.
Yeah, quite a surprise, and those Porsches are doing really well at the front. They must have got a really sort of nailed setup on those, and to be honest, there are some good drivers out the front as well. I mean, we've seen Buchek before pull some amazing moves, as well as Karolia and Curtin, Weaver. We've seen all these guys up the front regularly in their respective tiers. But I think one to actually point out from tier 2 in the qualifying is P11 man Alex Smith. Now, we've talked about him previously, but he is in a Ginetta G55 GT4 car, and those cars aren't as powerful, I'd say, as the other as the sort of Mercedes, Porsches, Astons. They're a bit more race car based, really, and they're a bit faster in the corners. So to see that up there in P11 on this sort of track is really promising to see, and he's going to be really quick through sector 1, I believe, but he might struggle on the straight, so he's going to have to really think about how he makes his moves. But very, very good to see, but not surprisingly seeing the Mercedes, the Astons, BMWs up the front, and surprised by the Porsche. Actually, they're doing a really good job. So yeah, we'll see how it all comes out in the wash, I guess.
100%. I mean, here's the thing with Alex, James. I think you and I know it, and I know Alex likes to question our judgment quite a lot, but he does like to bottle it, doesn't he?
Oh, calling him out already. Yeah, well, I'm not gonna say anything because I think we've slighted him enough, and we'll see. We'll just let him do his thing and see how he comes out of the first lap. But hopefully he can make some moves in that thing, because I think that is the first lap is the time where he should be trying to push that thing through those gaps. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see how he gets on with that G55. But they are a great car to drive. I just don't think they're as refined as the other cars on the grid. Obviously, all the other cars are a bit more well-funded with their manufacturers. Ginetta being a smaller, plucky British manufacturer, you know, just sticking their nose in and fighting the big guns, and they're doing a great job. So great to see them out there, and Alex representing them.
Well, it's all you can do with a car made out of cheese, isn't it? Um, It is interesting to see that there has been a change up in the top 10 so far. I mean, this is only qualifying of round 1. But there has been a slight change up. I mean, I still recognize Olivier Curtin. He was really good in Tier 1 the last part. He's still up there. I recognize Ignacy Buchek, of course, as well.
Yeah.
He's still up there as well. But there's a couple names on there who I've not seen before, and maybe the more mechanical, the more mechanically gripped, reliant GT4s are more their style rather than the kind of GT3s, which, as you said earlier, they get the aero wash and damage with a GT4. It doesn't feel as severe as in a GT3.
Yeah, I think, like as you said, some drivers might prefer the more mechanical-based grip of these vehicles. So you may see different drivers start to exceed and come through the fields from when they may have not been as efficient or gelled with the GT3 platform. So this could be really interesting. We might see some new drivers coming through that really like these GT4 platforms and really extract the performance. But as you say, these cars are a little bit stronger, we discussed earlier, and I think, you know, they're not as, if you get a bit of damage, you can generally get away with it and keep going in the race, where some of these GT3s, when you take rear damage on the diffuser or the splitter, you can lose a lot of aero efficiency, and that can really like destroy your race, because then you start eating through tires because you're leaning on them more. But yeah, it's going to be really interesting. And we've already got some guys in the chat. We've got RWB, Cos, and Cripple Potato in the chat. So jump in and give us your thoughts, and maybe we're talking rubbish and you can tell us otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, they're not going to say that about me, because I always tell the truth and nothing I say stinks. But I mean, I wouldn't put it past them if they think something you're saying is a load of crap.
I agree. I mean, I just don't think I'm a reliable source, to be perfectly honest. I mean, we just need some good drivers up in here. I don't know what I'm doing here. Maybe we'll get one of these guys from the top 10 to come in at some point and tell us how they're feeling in the future, maybe, about these races. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to it, and Suzuka's going to be a great track for some racing.
Yeah, it was brilliant fun watching, participating in that massive grid that they had for the big grid of Suzuka in RWB. I think there was about 80 plus cars that started, and that was absolute mayhem. In fact, I have a clip somewhere of me stupidly listening to Crawford Brown. I know you're listening, Crawford. You can go suck an egg for that great idea you had of turning down the visible cars so everyone was invisible for me. But yeah.
I remember this.
Yeah, I think a lot of RWB members remember it as well.
Yeah, I saw that that video back, and yeah, I have to admit, Josh, I did laugh at that.
Yeah, but even then, when everything settled down and the grid kind of spread out, so I could start seeing what was going on around me, fantastic racing up and down through the field. I mean, there were battles happening up at the top, in the top 10. There was tons of battles happening for the people who kind of got caught out in the first few lap incidents, and they still kept going in. We're fighting all the way through to the end. It was just brilliant to watch, and even more brilliant to participate.
Yeah. No, I mean, some of these RWB events have been really great to watch, and we've had some great fun commentating on the GT3 field and a few other events. So it's great to be commentating on a slightly different car variant, which is a bit more up my street. And yeah, it's great to see, and we see quite a few of the guys going back to the pit. So I wouldn't be surprised if these guys start gridding up soon, and getting themselves sorted out, ready for the race, thinking about their fuel. We've got a few guys, we've got Cribble Potato and Simot in the chat saying they're going to try to just go on one set of tyres and do a splash and dash. So these guys are going to have to think about that and whether they want to throw a new set on and try and extract that grip and performance for the disadvantage of being in the pits a bit longer. So yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Well, it is 9:30 at night, in case you can't see out your window and see that it's pitch black. It's pitch black where I am with blizzard-like conditions, so that's fun. But yeah, just as you called it, we're on to the race start. This week, I think everyone will be happy to know that I have messed about with the auto director. So, fingers crossed, touching all the wood you can find, we'll actually see some proper racing, rather than just someone's rear wing. But I can run down who's on the grid and who's where. Whoa, let me take a deep breath. Right.
Look forward to this.
I know you love these, James.
Oh, it's beautiful.
So P1 is Ignacy Buchek with Caroli alongside. P3 is Jay Madley. P4 is Olivier Curtin. P5 is Tom Weaver. And P6 is Mohamed Carolia. Rick Binnersley is in P7, Dura in P8, Phil Varley in P9, and Alistair Howe in P10. We knew that from qualifying, but just in case anyone forgot or joined. P11 is our boy Alex Smith alongside the other Alex Rogers, who's in P12. Isaacs is in P13, Barnett in P14, Sharp in P15, and Pinpoint in P16. P17 is Miko Sky with the BMWs of Sjöblom, Rigel, and Nielsen in P18 through to P20. Snell Train is in P21 with Clinch in P22, Mole in P23, and Crew in P24. P25 has Schaefer with Wilk, Camaletto, Baraclout, and Eugenie behind him. Dirk Gretschel is in P30, P31 is Mertens with Flack in P32. The Genettas of Tarbuck and Mad Al are in P33 and 34, with RWB Audi in P35. P36 is Shepherd with the Astons of FX and Charger behind. Anderson is in P39, Newcomer in P40, Kaneko in P41, Toledo in P42, and to round off this hefty grid of 43 cars is Simon Trebek.
Wow.
Which is kind of odd. I usually recognise Simon Trebek being towards the very front of the grid in the GT3 cars.
Maybe he's just struggled with the Genetta or didn't maybe set a qualifying time. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see what he can do with that car and whether he can come through the field. Shout out to Dan Anderson, the only McLaren 570S GT4 car on the grid. So that's going to be interesting to see how it stacks up amongst the other cars. Maybe he can have a few good battles with the cars around him and go through the field. So yeah, solo representation there for McLaren. But yeah, look forward to seeing how it does. RWB cars in the chat saying I'm touching wood right now. So he's definitely making sure that our auto direct is going to work.
As long as he's touching wood and not striking the wood, I'm happy.
Yes, hopefully.
Oh man, you can never trust anything Crawford says, James. But yeah, that's now 3 seconds until they head underway for their rolling start. No full formation lap. That usually just ends up being way too long, and most of the time ends up being a massive clusterfuck of people spinning it off, doing a bit of a George Russell at Imola when he completely bent it under a safety car. I mean, I have no words for that. But as we can see, the concertina effect as they're moving forward, that's a massive thing into turn one. But yeah, we'll see how it goes with the turn one here. Suzuka's a bit tricky as you have some people who try and go for the cheeky dive into the first part of the first corner, and then they end up washing out. But it's GT4's, they can take some hits. Let's see how it goes. Am I right, James?
Yeah, exactly. And they've got to squeeze through this casino complex first, so a casino triangle. So, we might still have some cars going through there when it goes green. So let's see what happens, and hopefully turn one can be as clean as possible.
Well, that looks like everyone's through nice and fine for the rolling start. You can see there Carolia getting a little bit keen on the throttle, trying to anticipate. They use the further away one for the start line rather than the finish line, which are completely different places, annoyingly. But that's it. Now we see the red lights are on, and hopefully we'll get underway. And there it is, the green lights as they head on now. We see the blue Aston Martin. That looks like Phil Varley going a little bit wide. Sorry, Howell going a little bit left, trying to cover the outside. Oh, 3 wide, and that looks like a
Big
little nudge from the
contact.
Mercedes of Binnersley, but that's him back on a track now. Luckily, we don't see any yellow flags being waved so far, and it actually looks pretty clean for a first corner.
Yeah,
But
really
however, it's now into the S's, so that means everyone's going to have to get into single file. And yeah, well, we know how it is with single file. Never works out as everyone tries to move in. Exactly. We're currently watching now Olivier Curtin. He's coming under pressure from Tom Weaver in that number 18 Aston Martin, and I have to say kudos to the auto director because it's actually showing us a battle that we want.
Yeah, no, great.
Looking further down the field, I see someone off. I'll see if I can find out who that was. But that looks like Martin Schaefer got knocked off, and there's another yellow flag on entrance of Degner 1. Also, the director keeping us on for Degner 2 as we're watching Isaacs going around the car of... No, that was Sharp going around Isaacs.
Oh, yeah. And we've got Alex Smith out in that lead pack there. He's leading that pack and pulling away from them currently with them battling. So squeezing through the hairpin. It always gets a bit feisty around there. You can easily dive down the inside, but these guys trying to be respectful and keep it clean. But we've seen a lot of tier 1 and tier 2 guys mixed up here on the left hand side. You can see the red and the white being split pretty much evenly down the grid from B11 onwards. So they're really close battles here, and surprising to see some really good racing between all these different variants. So it's going to be interesting to see how they do over the next hour and 18 minutes. But it's close for sure, as we're seeing as the Gianettas come under pressure from Krug here in the Audi. He's trying to go around the outside of 130R. So see if he can make it stick, which he's already overtaken him just under power. You can see how underpowered these Gianettas are on the straight. So these guys have got to really work hard in the corners to extract the maximum performance. As we can see, I think that's Mole coming back at Crew now down into the Casino Triangle. So yeah, and he's round the outside. That just shows how much lateral grip that car has and how it can stop on the brakes, because it's far lighter than the cars around it. But on board with Schaefer in that Maserati, beautifully coloured there, easily spotted on track. But that's an interesting one for sure, and I think that might be the only Maserati out on track as well.
It looks like it from what I can see, and the Maserati is quite a tricky car to use. It doesn't have any of the electronic assist like the other GT4 cars. But you can see now we've kind of got packs already forming. We've already got trains with gaps in between them forming from people at the front of the trains fighting each other to try and get position. So it's kind of, me and James say this all the time, but sometimes it's worth just letting the guy behind you get past and then just follow him so that you can try and make up some time and catch up to the train ahead. But it looks like Binnersley is currently trying desperately to try and catch up to the back of Nielsen so he can make a pass as they head on now down towards Degner 1. But yeah, not many people make a move into Degner 1, do they, James?
Yeah, it's pretty tricky to make a move down there. It looks tighter than it actually is. You can fire it through quite aggressively, and with these GT4's you can ride a lot more curbs, so you can really fire it in. But Carolia coming under pressure here from De Boer in the BMW there, and these cars are quite evenly matched power-wise, so he's going to have to really use that slipstream to his advantage. If it were me, I'd hold off a little bit. We're coming through Spoon now and get a really good run down this back straight if I was in De Boer's shoes, and try and get him into 130R. But again, that's a really tricky corner to overtake on, especially with cars with similar lateral grip. So he's going to really have to think about where his car is stronger than that Porsche, and all these guys are going to be learning where each chassis is good and where each chassis struggles, and they'll be doing this throughout the race to try and understand where they can make moves on, say, a BMW trying to make a move on a Porsche, or a Porsche trying to make a move on an Aston. They're starting to learn where each of these cars is strong and weak, and this is what they're going to have to do as quick as possible, because then they're going to start making these overtakes and knowing where to make the overtake as well. They need to start planning ahead and choosing the corners they want to make these moves on. So it's going to be really interesting to see throughout the race. But we've got a pack of three Porsches, sorry, from 4th to 6th. So maybe these guys will try and work together for a little bit. Same chassis, they know each other strong and weak, so they can try and keep up with that front pack of Buchek, Pirelli, and Weaver, and keep the race going between those top guys.
Unfortunately, it looks like Kaneko went off at the Casio Triangle. He's managed to get back on track, and luckily he didn't do anything stupid like dive into the inside of the corner to try and rejoin. So, brilliant move from Kaneko to try and rejoin safely, but it's just a shame that he's been knocked down the pack a little bit more.
Yeah, it looks like he might have a little bit of damage, maybe. It just looked like his car was crabbing a little bit. It might maybe just the stream, but yeah, we'll see how he gets on and whether he can pick up the pieces and start fighting back in that Porsche. But yeah, we've seen some really great racing from these guys, and we can see it's already really close in comparison to the GT3s because they can follow so much closer. As we see that pack of three come out of Degna 2 there, the Porsche, the Beamer, and the Aston, right on each other's bumpers. And these guys are really going tooth and nail to get these positions early on and secure that for later in the race. But yeah, these guys are pushing really hard, and I'm looking forward to see how this is if they can keep this up, because they're still really close.
Yeah, I mean, Phil's pretty much checking out Doer's prostate at that point. They're that close. Currently looking now at Snell Train with Camelotto behind, and the Genettas just look so abysmal on the straights with that straight line speed. On the other hand, though, the BMWs are so strong on the straight lines, they can just... Some people claim that they can match the speeds of GT3 cars at the top end, which, you know, I'm not 100% sure about, but it's a rumour that's floating out there, and maybe someone in the chat can confirm this or deny it. I'll happily kind of, you know, retract my statement. But someone who's not retracting right now is currently Camaletto trying to catch up to Snell Train.
Yeah, and you can just see how much that Porsche has pulled away already. He's pulled about a car length on that Ginetta from leaving Spoon Curve to getting to 130R. It's about 1 to 2 car lengths now, and you can just see that Ginetta really struggles in a straight line, but look how confident he is under the brakes, and it's right back on the bumper of that Porsche of Snell Train there. So if he can make that move done in the S's, I think the Ginetta can hold the position, but we're seeing a really early pit stop from the number 60 Porsche here, so very interesting move. Maybe he just wants to get a splash and dash done and then get straight back out on track, which I think might be the case. Yeah, this is a really early move. We've seen this before, I think, in the previous round, actually, the Tier 2 guys. I think it was RWB Flack, or it was someone that made a really early pit stop and somewhat paid off for them. So yeah, we'll see how that turns out in the rest of the race. But back on board with Barnett here in the Porsche, really pushing that Aston hard, and I think that Aston actually of Varley has made up a few positions there, because I believe he was behind Pinpoint, if I'm correct.
He was, yeah, but
yeah,
you know.
So he's made up a few positions there, and really pushing on in that orange and purple Aston Martin. It seems to be going really well around this track.
Well, a cheeky bit of news coming in is that Alistair Howe is unfortunately retired. He's just currently sitting in the pits. It doesn't look like he's going anywhere, so that's a massive shame if he's got damage and he's being forced to retire, or he's got a super long pit stop. But it looks like it is retirement at this stage. I'll let you know if he rejoins the race. But super unfortunate. But looking back now at Sky, we've got Sjöblom in front of him. Jeez, that's a hard last name to say. But we've got Emil in front of him in that Tier 2 BMW. And it's kind of interesting to see if Sjöblom lets him by or just goes, you know what, I'm here to race everyone, you're not getting past, you're going to have to earn this. But still, like, Varley's still right up behind Madley, and it looks like he's going to try and make a move around the outside at 130R. Will he do it? Will he pull it off? He's still committed, but no, he doesn't quite stick around the outside, but now he's got Barnett coming up on the inside of 130R. So go 3 wide into the final corner, and 3 does not go into 1 for a line like that. And yeah, unfortunately, Phil's lost out on that one, losing 3-4 positions. Yeah,
that was unfortunate for Phil. You know, he's really trying hard. You can see he had the pace, and he's been pushing through that pack so effectively for these opening laps. He just was in the wrong place at the wrong time, unfortunately, to make that move stick. Round the outside of 130R is really tricky in cars like this, especially against something like the Porsche. We know that's pretty good in the corners. The Aston's a bit more floaty, it's quite heavy. So it'll probably struggle a bit more through that 130, and that just allowed Barnett there to close right up and get that opportunity into the Casio triangle and make that move done. Unfortunately, Varley just got pushed out there, and he was just wrong place, wrong time. So he's going to have to really fight hard to get past these guys again, because he's lost quite a few positions now from where he was. So he's been,
yeah, he was hounding the back of Carolia, and it looks like Carolia felt the pressure and went a little bit wide there.
Yeah,
unlock.
easy thing to do at Dunlop because you can just get on that throttle too early and stay with it as he's sliding that car everywhere. Varley is in that Aston, so he's really pushing hard. But back here with Alex Smith and Sky, so Alex Smith is having to work really hard to keep these cars behind, but he was, I believe, ahead of Isaac and Sublum, who are both tier 2 drivers.
Yeah, he was P11.
Yeah, so he's been losing out to these guys, and I think that is just purely down to that less power of the Ginetta and being on the straights with these bigger cars. They're just slipstreaming up right behind him, overtaking, getting the move done. He can't really do much, unfortunately, in that Ginetta, so he has to just work as hard as he can in the corners and try and make that time back up again. But even if he gets a move done, they can still just pass him on the straight. So it might be a really frustrating time for Alex Smith in P14 currently. So he's dropped 3 positions from his starting position. So yeah, not going well, and probably might see a few more positions lost to hit him in the future. But these guys fighting in front actually are doing a great job. I mean, look at this through 130R. I mean, in GT3s you'd be struggling to get that close with the aero wash, but these guys are right on the bumper of each other, and this is producing some absolutely phenomenal racing.
Well, you love the adjectives today, don't you, James? But good news for Alex is that Sky and Rigel, they've been tapping each other all the way through. We saw it a little bit in Degner too. They're just hounding each other. So maybe that'll give Alex a little bit of a breathing room to try and get his thoughts together, start to plan out where he can defend and where he can kind of let his hair down a little bit and just follow his line as trying to improve those lap times and catch up to the guy ahead of him, which is Emil. But further up at the field, we've got Ignacy Bucek with a 2.2 second gap to Carolia in P2, with Tom Weaver 5 seconds down. In fact, that's nearly 6 seconds down in P3, but Weaver's being hounded by Olivier Curtin as well.
Yeah, I think that's meant he's dropped back from those leading Mercedes, and we know those guys, as soon as they get a bit of free air, they're going to go for it and pull that gap, and that's just unfortunate in the way it is. So that Aston of the P3 man of Weaver is just going to drop back, I think, because he's trying to keep that Porsche behind. But you know, we're seeing that up and down the field, and I think they're going to all break up into their own little packs and find their feet and be battling amongst each other from there on. But yeah, some great racing on board with Rigel and that BMW, pushing Sky in front of that Mercedes, tier 1 and tier 2 going at each other. No mercy between the two tiers here. They're acting as if, you know, this is it, you know, this is for position. So yeah, it's great to see, and I'm sure we'll be seeing a lot more of it, but Rigel being able to keep on the back of Sky is really good to see.
Well, we're seeing in the background at Degner 2 again, all the moves seem to be happening at Degner 2 from what I'm seeing. But we're seeing Camaletto go for a move on Nielsen, but unfortunately didn't get it done. Nielsen managed to cover the line quite well, to be honest. It's what I would do, and you know me, James, I'm a king of defence, but someone who's not having a good time like a king is someone back there. But
like Pinpoint and maybe one other car back there at Spoon Curve. So yeah, that would be good for was it Varley, or we were on board before? That was trying to go through the pack again. But
yeah, it was Phil Varley. But
yeah, so that'd be good for him. But I think, unfortunately, I think they'll be dropping down the order pretty soon. Yeah, Pinpoint 21st now. And was FX UK dropping as well, so maybe he's tangled up in something as well. Yeah, no, we don't want to see that, but you know, that is racing, unfortunately, and these guys are going to be rubbing a lot more than they usually will in a GT3. So yeah, P Varley back in P7 again, trying to chase down Madley, who he's right on the tail of, and we're on board with Rigel at the moment. Alex Smith is trying to hold off Rigel, but that Beamer is just poking his nose into turn 1, seeing if it's available, but that Ginetta can just really slam on those brakes really light, really hard, and get it stopped just because it's so much lighter. So Rigel's going to have to really think about this, because he's got that BMW Rogers right behind him, hassling him, trying to get through, and he's got Alex Smith holding him up, so he's going to have to plan that out to perfection. As Rumble with Godzilla now, trying to find a way past the RWB Audi, funnily enough, in the BMW.
Yeah, who'd have thought, but I mean, he's in one of my favourite GT4 cars in ACC, the Chevy. It's the closest thing I can get to a Ford in that game, which absolutely makes me gutted. But yeah, Godzilla's hounding the back of Audi, hopefully trying to get past him so he can go ahead and try and fight Javier Eugeni and Dave Crew, who are on P23 and P24 respectively up ahead. And yeah, we're seeing a lot of dirt being kicked up at Degner. So hopefully we don't see any yellow flags or anyone going off. Well, I say that as right there. That looks like who does that look like? I need to find names so I can shame them on stream.
Name and shame.
Yeah, but that looked like it could have been. I have no idea. It could have been Nielsen. But
Possibly. We'll see at the next timing gate because he is behind crew at the moment. So whichever BMW pops up behind this Audi, will probably be be the one that was off, I think. But crew doing a great job in the Audi actually. Not that many at the front of the field, but they seem to be quite quick. He seems to be passing people on the straight, so they could have quite a bit of straight line grunt. And I'm surprised the Chevys, don't have the same power. And it seems like maybe the top guys are struggling with the Chevy, but it is a great looking car. I do love the look of that Chevy, and it is a big old muscle car, which is a bit more up your street, I think, Josh.
Well, you know me too well, James. Unfortunately, no screaming V12s for you here.
If only.
The closest I can offer you is a flat 6 on a Porsche. I guess you can kind of ram 4 of them together, and there you go.
Yeah, no, it's the Porsche sounds good, to be fair. But obviously, all these cars are a bit more road car variants, so they are a little bit quieter than their GT3 counterparts. The make always sounds pretty good, Josh. I have to admit that the V8 in that car does sound pretty spectacular. So
someone who's being spectacular right now is Godzilla. Going down the inside of Dan Barnett, and that was a move that probably was not anticipated by Dan Barnett, because he probably wasn't expecting that hulking block of V8 metal to go screwing down the inside very into turn 1, but Godzilla pulled it off.
Was that not Eugenie by any chance?
Godzilla's in a Chevy, mate. Oh, it could be Eugenie. Oh, who knows?
It's strange seeing Eugenie in something other than a BMW.
It really is. I thought he was in a Beamer.
Yeah, I associate him with the BMW, to be honest. But great to see him switching it up again and changing that chassis out for the Chevy. Maybe he just prefers that GT4 car. So yeah, great to see these guys switching about and different manufacturers. I know Kated in the Porsche is stayed with that manufacturer throughout the series. So maybe there's a little bit of crossover there, and he can extract the same performance he did from the GT3 car, and he seems to be doing quite a good job because he's at the front. So yeah, it's great to see Oddly back on board with RWB Audi currently. Just looking at him in that BMW, and he's really pushing Barnett in that Porsche. As we see
that's not a Porsche. That's not a place you want to be in a Porsche, is it?
No, not round 200R. That is a very treacherous situation, but managed to get back on track safely, and hopefully he can just push forward. He'll have a bit of dirt on his tyres, struggle for a few corners, but then be back on pace. So yeah, that Porsche dropping down, but I think that might be another place for RWB Audi.
Yeah, it probably is. We'll see them as they go through the next timing gate, which, there we go. Yeah, that's it looked like Dan Barnett, who took an excursion off the grass to, maybe mow it a little bit. Looks a little long anyway. We see a yellow flag just popped up slightly there at 130R on the entrance into the Casio Triangle. It isn't Aston Martin. Maybe it's Damien. I'm not too sure. I won't name and shame until we know for certain. Well, I mean, there's no shame in going off track a little bit. We only shame people who do something properly stupid. And someone who might be looking at doing something stupid is having Eugenie, but we'll never know because we swapped over to Clinch trying to fight off Binnersley. But it looks like Binnersley got past.
Yeah, no, great move. Just down the inside of, I think that was the turn 2 of the first corner complex, which is just treated as one big sweeping right-hander. But yeah, managed to get down the inside of that car. As we see, I think that was Pinpoint there fighting Nielsen. Or was it Nielsen? No, Pinpoint fighting Wilk there. So they're going at it in the Jesus, these cars are on top of each other left, right, and centre. I mean, these guys are really pushing hard.
Are we actually 20 minutes into a race? What is going on?
I know. I think you'd expect them in the GT3's field to be all separated out by now and be trying to get close to each other. But oh my God, side-by-side action, left, right, and centre through Degner 1, which is unheard of occasionally making that move. So to have 2 of them side by side through the Degners there, that is just unbelievable to see. Please, can we have some more of this for the rest of the race? This is unbelievable to watch.
Well, it looks like we're going to go have a 3 wide going into the hairpin, but just at that point, unfortunately, Auto Director moves on. But currently looking at Flack in that Porsche, the pink pig Porsche, I've said this before, but that livery is stunning.
Yeah, you really like it, don't you?
I do love that pink pig. Yeah, further back down the field, it's a lot less calm, a lot more tame than the guys ahead. I wonder if they're kind of thinking, I want to catch up to that train ahead, Guys, you don't want to catch up to that train ahead. It is carnage right now.
The guys in that train will be eating through their tyres as well, trying to make all these moves done, and these guys are going to be lapping as consistent as possible, trying to preserve those tyres, think about their pit strategy. I don't think those guys in that group that we're following even now are considering pitting. They just don't even know where they'll come out. They're too busy fighting off the guys behind. We're seeing Isaac and Carolia coming onto the start-finish straight here. I wonder if Carolia might make a move into turn 1, or if Isaac's going to block it off. He should move right. No, he's leaving the door open to Carolia here. I don't know what's going on.
That's unheard of.
Maybe he's just decided, maybe Carolia's going a bit quicker. Isaac's decided, oh, you know what, I'll let him through, give him the opportunity to pull away, give me a little bit of breathing room to recover and think, and I'll try and catch the train in front of me rather than getting held up in the train behind. So this could be a big move for Isaac there, trying to think ahead and plan and strategize, because he's got Sky, Rigel and Shublum right behind him, but he's given himself a bit of room now just to follow that push, and if they can try and communicate and tell each other just to go for it, this could work out for him. So he's sliding coming out of Dunlop there, so he's really pushing that car. So maybe it was just a case of Carolia was a bit faster and just let him through. So
it's a very tactical move though from Isaac, because he's leading in tier 2 right now, and that's kind of what matters for him at the moment. So I wonder if letting past Carolia is kind of a decision of I just need to stay alive. It's kind of a matter of self-preservation at this point, and
exactly,
if he can keep his nose clean, he might be in with a shot of staying ahead in P1. But we see a Mercedes going very wide there, but it looks like a Mercedes of Sky going quite wide into the hairpin.
Lost his braking point, I think, and just went a bit deep, lost a few positions, and that's just the way it is, unfortunately. He just misjudged his braking point, and you could see that, but he managed to get back on track, back in the fight. Only lost a few positions. He's got just under an hour to make them back up again, as he's already fighting with Rogers there, I think. He's not making it easy for himself. As we see another car off the hairpin actually may have done the same thing. I think that's an Aston.
Yeah, it looks like the Aston of Charger going very deep into the hairpin there. We won't name and shame, but well done, Charger. You did well.
I was just seeing Alex Smith right on the bumper of Sky there, and the Mercedes has to be so close to get that slipstream down that straight, otherwise he's going to be losing out. That Ginetta is really good at the braking. You could see that Binnersley there tried to get a move down the inside, but basically just Ginetta outperforming on the brakes, and Alex just giving a little nudge there coming out of the last curve there. And,
that's compromised Binnersley for Clinch to come past. He's just sailed past.
Yeah, exactly, and Alex is happy to do that, maybe to try and keep these guys behind, because look at the power differential between the Mercedes and the Ginetta. He has no chance down that straight. Look at the braking though under the Ginetta, but it's unbelievable to watch these two different cars fight each other on track. You can see how plucky that Ginetta is, how good it is in the corners, but that Mercedes, as soon as it gets on the power, it is gone. So Alex Smith having a really hard time there to keep these guys behind, and he's lost another position there, I think, to I think that's possibly Binnersley, I think.
No, that was Clinch who got past.
Sorry,
Smith.
It's great to see, and I think Clinch actually came through 2 positions in 1 almost there. He, because of Binnersley getting held up by Alex a little bit on the exit of the last corner, he managed to get 2 positions in one straight, so that's a great move for him. And Alex is going to have to work really hard to keep the rest of the cars behind, but it's unfortunate to have such little power in that Ginetta, but I'm sure it'll come good in some of the later rounds where we might have some more technical tracks where that Ginetta can shine. Back on board with Rogers now in the BMW, as we've seen Sky behind trying to catch up. We saw him trying to make a move around the outside at Spoon Curve, but still hasn't made it stick yet, so that's one to watch, because Sky wants to get through that field after losing positions to the hairpin, as we see a train of Chevrolets right now. I'm sure you're liking that, Josh.
Sorry, I was just taking a swig of my very flat Tennants, which I have right next to me.
That's what you need, beer and muscle cars. Beer
and muscle cars, yeah. I'm living the life right now. I need is a steak. Then I'll be absolutely sorted. But it looks like Dora and Eugenie are... I don't know if they're teammates or if they're just wearing the same livery that comes with the game. But if they are teammates, not sure what quite is going on here with these two kind of fighting each other. But it looks like Dor is helping slightly cover off Godzilla in that black and green Chevy as well. Looks like Godzilla backed out of going side by side through 130R, and can you blame him? That's just brutal going side by side through 130R.
Yeah.
We saw Alonso, I believe it was Alonso, do that fabulous move at 130R a couple of yea back. Well, let's say many years back. But yeah, fantastic move. But yeah, it's still a long way to go, and not that many people have pitted. It seems to be a lot of people going the long run for now. No one else is doing the short run, which might benefit actually quite well for. Trying to remember who pitted super early. I believe it was Snell Train who pitted super early, and it might benefit him to have some clean air.
Yeah, because you think how bunched up all these guys are, and that allows him to get in the free air at the back, and then all these guys are going to be pitting in front of him, and he might just got to breeze through and pass a load of people in the pit stop. But we're seeing the YouTube chat, RWB Charger, he says, I'm out, he says stutters, and started feeling sick, so yeah.
Well, I know a cure for that is a ciggy and a nice pint, so...
So that's
for everyone out there, grab a pint, or if you're underage, don't grab a pint. Grab a pint of milk, right? Don't grab a pint of the stuff in your mummy and daddy's cupboard, because that's not what we're encouraging. But yeah, pull up a seat charger and enjoy. It's properly good fun. We're busy taking the piss out of Alex right now because look at that. It looks like he's lost another position. He's in P16.
I feel sorry for Alex. I feel sorry
what
for
a
him.
shame.
I mean, it's just the nature of the beast, and he's chosen the Ginetta because I think he likes that, you know, confidence in the car and the grip level and being able to corner really aggressively. And from what I've seen from his driving, and to jump in that car on this track, you can put in a good lap time, but unfortunately, when you come up against these cars in the race, they've just got so much more grunt and torque that they can just get around the outside of that Ginetta with that little V6 in the car. So. Yeah, it's unfortunate to see, but he's trying his best with that chassis, and he is one to watch for the rest of the season, I think, because he's going to be pushing that as hard as he can. Hopefully he stays in that chassis, because if he makes a change, it would be a bit unfortunate. But yeah, I mean, it's great to see, and all these different cars battling each other on track. As we see Rigel going for a move on Madley there and getting it done, I think, into turn 1. So yeah, moves left, right, and centre on track, and gaggles of cars. We see FX UK going a little bit sideways out of the Casio triangle there, but I'm sure he'll keep on top of it, as we've seen Pinpoint go for possibly a move on Wilk. Pinpoint seems to have a bit of front end damage, but as we said earlier, it doesn't seem to be slowing him down as he's gone round the outside at turn 1. So unbelievable move, and it's opened the door for door. Funnily enough, so yeah, so great racing there, especially through turn 1, and commitment from Pinpoint there just to fire it around the outside of that Porsche. As we're on board with FX again, sliding it around turn 3 in the snake there. So yeah, he's not scared of that car and willing to push it as much as he can.
Yeah, well, he's pushing it way too hard there.
Yeah.
You want to take a for FX. I want to see what's on FX's bonnet, because it looks like a face of some sort, but I have no idea what it is from these camera views. But
he looks like
I think from Charger, it's something amusing.
Yeah, he looks like he's had a bit of fun with his livery design for the GT4 section.
I respect that.
Yeah. It looks very good. You know those 3D glasses you used to get that were red and blue for the old 3D style films? That's sort of like the vibe I'm getting from that car. But looks great, and as he's just gone a bit deep into the hairpin, so you can see how hard RWB FX UK has been pushing. So maybe he's got a little bit of damage, you just don't know. But it looks pretty clean from our view, so I think he might be pushing.
I think too much time on his livery rather than practicing. I think I'd say that's time well spent, to be honest.
Oh yeah. Oh,
you know me, James. I love a livery.
I've just seen his. I just had a close up of his bonnet there. He was. That's definitely an after the watershed image right there. So great to see some humour from these RWB guys.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Oh my god.
A little bit.
That's absolutely amazing. How has he got away with that?
Is that what I think it is? And yeah, it is.
Yeah,
it is.
yeah.
For those who don't know, it's a sausage.
It's good old Walls or Richmond's.
Who sponsored Donington?
Simply Sausages.
Simply Sausages. Yeah, it's a Simply Sausages sponsorship. You don't need to look at it anymore.
Yeah, also on board with Anderson here in McLaren, the only one out on track. So interesting to see how he's getting on with the other drivers and the other cars. But seems to be okay in a straight line. I know the base setting on the McLaren's quite understeery, so maybe he's had to dial that out for this track, especially with some of the mid to high speed corners. Because he'll want to get on the throttle as soon as possible. So and spool those turbos on that twin turbo V8. So yeah, he might be losing a position currently to Toledo, but managed to keep it there coming into the S's. So yeah, great to see that car out on track. Looks like it's handling quite well in his hands. So I'd like to see more of him in the future and see what he can do. I think he's maybe made a few positions from the start. Let me check. I'll tell you.
While James has a little look-see, because he's got the memory of a goldfish, currently looking now at Clinch making another move on Alex Smith. It looks like maybe Clinch kind of messed up somewhere in Sector 2, but he's now got easily past Alex Smith on the straight, because the underpowered Janetta just struggles there. Oh, as we see a yellow flag now, 2 cars off, one's in the wall. Luckily, one's managed to rejoin safely, but that looked like it could have been Flack and maybe Mad Al. But
Toledo and the Aston was off, and I'm not sure which Janetta was off. Yeah, I think it might have been Mad Al. That's really unfortunate. Dan Anson's still out on track in that McLaren. I did find out he's made up a few positions. He started P39, so he's up a few positions from his starting place. But yeah, we don't want to see that at the Degners. Maybe just someone got it wrong on the braking, or just a slight touch through Degner 1. But yeah, very unfortunate. Hopefully these guys can recover and get back on track.
Definitely, it looked all right for the Aston that rejoined, but that Janetta looked solidly planted into the wall. We'll see the updated timing screen in a second when they pass through the timing gates. But that's not something that we wanted. But I think we could kind of guess that was going to happen, especially with the close battling that's been going on. But I mean, it's bad news for them. But me and James, we absolutely love it.
We do like a good old crash. It spices things up a bit on the stream, but yeah, no, it's great to see these guys racing. But you can see it's starting to space out a little bit now. Everyone's starting to find their feet. Back on the board with Isaac, he's still behind Carolia, the guy he seemed to almost let through at Gen 1. So he seemed to stay on the back of him, keeping Rigel behind, and those guys have caught Sharp in the Mercedes. So. Maybe that was a tactical move and meant that Isaac didn't have to battle as much, and that's paying off for him right now. So, yeah, Sharp just shouldn't be looking in his mirrors right now. He should just be concentrating and looking forwards, making those apexes and absolutely nailing the lap times to try and stay ahead of Carolia at this stage. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see how these guys do on their tyres. The Porsches, I think, could do quite well under tyre wear, so interested to see who drops off, which cars drop off throughout the race, and how their pace is doing. Yeah, should be good.
Well, if you look at the timings, it's quite weird. Phil Varley's just in about a 25-second gap of clean air. He's got a gap to Adam to Sharp behind of about 8 seconds, and he's got a 13-second gap to Dua. So he's just kind of chilling now. Phil's going to have the most boring race of his life at the moment, because he's not really got anything else going on. Magnus Dahlgren saying Merc rather dominant in GT4's as well. They do look a little bit dominant, but we're seeing the Porsche and BMWs also very high up. Unfortunately, the Janettas are just so underpowered; they're not really doing anything at the moment. So just kind of hanging on by a thread. We see someone going off at the Casio Triangle. I'm trying to remember the name. It's not Casino Triangle, it's Casio.
I know, I always get them with the dyslexia, you know. You
dyslexia,
You just read it as Casino, you know. Yeah, we've seen some good battles with Rogers and Sky. These guys have been going at it. We saw them earlier battling. Sky still hasn't found a way past the Rogers, but Isaac looking very, very intimidating in the rear mirror now of Carolia's Porsche. So looking for that position back possibly, and getting fed up with having Rigel pressuring him from behind. So be interesting to see what these guys do. But coming back to Dahlgren's point, it says Merc was dominant in GT4 as well. They do seem to be quite dominant, but I think it is a track for that car. I mean, there's a lot of mid to high speed stuff. The Mercedes is quite well balanced. You know, it's got that gearbox at the rear, I believe. So the weight balance on the Mercedes is quite good, and it's always been quite a good car in quite a few tracks. But I think when we get to maybe some tighter tracks, or big stops and slower speed stuff, I think some of the other cars will shine through a little bit more. So, yeah, definitely a track for a Mercedes, I'd say, and it's being proved at this point with Buchek and Carolia just storming away. Really, we haven't really seen much of them throughout the race, and Weaver trying his best, to catch up in that Aston, but he's got Curtin on his rear bumper, and I think that might be the case for the rest of the race. If these Buchek and Carolia can just keep it clean, get a clean pit stop, they're going to be P1, P2. As long as they don't get caught up in back markers, which we know has happened in the past.
Yep, that was Imola, wasn't it, that we saw with Solheim going off. We're not 100% sure it's back markers. We don't like to, throw the blame out. We like to accuse, but we don't throw the blame.
Yeah, we can't throw blame. I mean, we are impartial, Josh. I mean, we've just got to commentate on what we're seeing, but not give any judgment. So that's for the scrutineers and the what would you call it, stewards to decide upon punishments.
Hang on, give me a sec. Okay, Google, define impartial. Yeah, no, it's not got a definition.
That's a shame. That's a shame. No. Doesn't exist.
Yeah, it's a myth, mate.
Everyone's got an opinion, Josh, and we're not afraid to tell it.
Oh no, definitely not. But we see Rydro and Binnersley in the pits now. They're not the earliest, they're not the first guys, but I have a feeling that they are just it is coming up to the midpoint of the race. So I assume we will see more people heading in after this point. They may have been looking for the undercut now, trying to get some clean air to push on, because we saw them battling quite hard earlier on. So we'll see how they do. We also see Godzilla in the pits as well, going in, along with Trebek as well.
We saw Rigel behind, I believe, was it Isaac? They've dropped down quite far. Maybe I'm getting it wrong, but they seem to be quite together. And interesting, they come in at the same time, because if they both do the same strategy, maybe a splash and dash, or they both go for new tyres, they're going to be coming out at the same time. So they might continue that battle on straight after the pit stop, which isn't necessarily what you want, because you want to get it back in that rhythm and learn how the car behaves with either more fuel and fresher tyres. So interested to see what they can do with that pit stop. But it's given Isaac a little bit of breathing room, I believe. But Madley's closing up on him. So interesting to see. Baku on board with Crew, who seem to do some nice moves on throughout the race thus far, and seems to be moving up the field quite consistently, actually. And he's behind Mole in the Ginetta, and if it were me, I'd back off slightly into Spoon and get a good run through it onto the back straight, and you'll have this Ginetta no problem, because as we see, I think that might be
that's door going very wide,
messing up his braking zone, unfortunately. But yeah, see if Crew can get this move done on the Ginetta. It might be a bit too far back, but that Audi's got the V10 grunt, whereas that Ginetta, the V6 3.5 litre Ford Duratec engine just might be wheezing a little bit at the end of that straight, but managed to keep him behind. So interesting to see these cars battle on track, mid-engine, front engine. It's all good to see. But great racing. Unfortunate for Dor in that Chevrolet there, just going a bit deep into Spoon, but I'm sure he can recover and still have a good race. As we see, who was that? Mole and
Pinpoint, yeah.
Pit. So interesting to see how they'll come out as well.
Definitely. Someone who's left the pits is Alistair Howard. Looks like he had severe damage and he wasn't retiring. So he's back out on track. Despite being 2 laps down, it's good sport. He's still going out and driving, maybe getting some more time in the GT4 to learn its quirks, tips of the trade and all that. Yeah. But back on board with Schaefer now. He's trying to catch up to RWB Audi in that BMW. But FX with the Simply Sausages sponsorship is following close behind.
That's going to get me every time. Just flashbacks to Top Gear, and it's very entertaining livery, I'll say that for sure. On board with Curtin, who's stuck with the Porsche chassis, coming from the GT3 to GT4. Interesting to see. We were talking about Howell before. We switched from the Audi to the Aston, so quite an interesting choice to go from a rear-engine, rear-wheel drive car to a front-engine, rear-wheel drive car, and the Aston being quite a floaty chassis. So maybe he just wanted that to change it up and give himself a bit more of something different to drive. As we see Sky still battling Rogers in this BMW, and this battle seems like it's going to go on for the rest of the race. So sit tight and see what they can do. But Rogers is really closing up to Shublum as well, who we've seen make some really good moves. So Shublum is not a slow driver by any means, and P10 and seems to be leading the Tier 1 guys at the moment. So yeah, great racing. BMW on BMW and Mercedes behind. So all the German manufacturers.
We're seeing P2, 3, and 5 pitting currently. But yeah, it looks like Alex wants to properly Roger Sjöblom as he comes into the Casio triangle now, going up the inside. He kind of forces his way a little bit in. No contact though. Sjöblom respects the space.
Yeah.
And yeah, Alex now tries to get the run, but it looks like Sky got a much better run out, and he's going to go for the inside. It looks like, yeah, there's a slight little love tap which has slowed him down a little bit. And he's having to back out the move, which is unfortunate, but at least he knows his lesson for next time.
Yeah, it looks like that BMW seems to pull away a little bit more at the top end. Maybe that's just that turbo is a bit more efficient at the top end on that straight 6, where the twin turbo V8 might struggle a little bit more at the top end. Might be a bit more strangled. It depends how the balance of performance has been done on the engine performance. But Sky's still trying to make it past Rogers, but Rogers just getting feeling out Shublum and where he can maybe make a pass, and he showed his nose at the Casio triangle, and maybe he'll think about it again next lap. But he seems to be really pressuring Shublum at the moment, so I wouldn't be surprised if we see a move soon. As I thought there might be one into Degner there, but it's great to watch.
No, if these guys don't have balls of steel, James, to do that into Degner 1. I was just looking at the timing screen just now and saw a train of about 5-6 cars pit at the exact same time. They're all in sequential mode in terms of their positioning. So that's quite interesting that they all decided to go in at the exact same time. I don't know if that's planned or if they're just following each other in and deciding to battle out on track rather than do a strategy, like a difference in strategies to try and get a pass done through that way. But these guys are still going at it. Alex is being hounded by Sky, but he's desperately trying to get past Emil. Curious as to why Emil's kind of electing to hold Alex up slightly. He could just let him by and he's still won Tier 2. But I wonder if he's in it for the overall points as well.
I mean, points mean prizes, Josh, as we discussed before. But sometimes when you're in this sort of position and you're confident in yourself, and sometimes you just want to prove that you can race with the Tier 1 guys. I mean, these guys haven't been battling on track in this series because they've been divided up in their tiers, and Shublum just wants to show that he is quick and he can battle with these boys, and he's proving it at the moment. He's keeping them behind comfortably, and Rogers just dived into the pits, followed by Sky as well, I believe. So those guys again coming in, position behind position. If it were me and I was following in a train, I'd want to maybe stay out and get a few more clean laps in to try and pull away. But interesting decisions from these guys to come in, as you say, sequentially. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they come out again, because if that battle continues throughout the whole race, I'll be amazed.
I'm kind of curious if Alex has a drive-through, because he looked very hot going into that pit marker, where the speed limit kind of comes into play. Looking at Andre Mol now as they go through 200R, that just feels wrong saying it. But Dor is still trying to hound him, and he goes up the inside, and well, he's got that proper American grunt to propel him all the way along the backstretch. I think that's game over for Andre to try and hold on until he gets into sector 1 and 2. But looking at Alistair Howe, he's letting through the blue flags. He's being respectful, which we saw. We see Dan Anderson with a stop-go 30-second, as well as Mohamed Karolia as well for stop-go 30-second. That's unlucky for those two.
The
only thing I can think of is a pit speed limit.
Possibly. That might.
And
be
Alex
the case.
Rogers, I called it. Alex Rogers got a stop-go 30-second. I called it, mate.
You're on the
I'm
ball.
a tactical god, mate.
So we won't be seeing Rogers and Sky battling at this rate if Rogers has got to stop and go, because that's going to really hinder his race and drop him way down the order, especially with how close these guys are to each other, and the packs are grouping back up again, leaving the pits. So we're starting to see a mix now of guys who have pitted and guys who haven't pitted. A lot more blue flags appearing on track, and a lot more stop goes appearing up and down the field, as you said, Rogers, and we've got Karolia as well, and Anderson, all with stop go 30-second penalties. So really unfortunate to see that. We wanted to see them do well. Dan Anderson was doing well, but seemed to have been caught up in something and got to stop go. So very unfortunate, but I'm sure we'll see some great racing for the rest of the race as we see that Simply Sausages livery go through the S's there.
Yeah, I don't think FX intended for us to call it the Simply Sausages car, but I think that's the name that's going to stick with it for now.
Yeah, the most apt name, I would say.
Most PG friendly name. Oh yes.
Oh, we see the Mercs battling up into the hairpin there. I think that was Pinpoint and Binnersley. So they're still going at it after pitting, so that is for position. Back on ball with Tarbuck in the Ginetta. Trying to chase down that BMW, but we'll see how that gets on for him. We'll have to wait for a tight, twisty section to try and maybe get past. Interesting to see the Alpina out there in P14. Hasn't pitted yet, but yeah, not one I've actually come up against in real life. I've seen them on track. They look quite good and seem to perform quite well. But yeah, interesting chassis and not something I'm familiar with, but it's a great looking car, I have to admit. Oh, contact
That's
there.
Clinch going very sideways through Degner 1. With Schublum going very wide, so there must have been contact, but I mean it was bound to happen.
Yeah.
I wonder if they thought that they were entitled to get past Emil, but you know, it's racing. They're on the same lap. You can't expect them to move over.
And Schublum just did the right thing, kept it wide, managed to avoid that incident, but it didn't affect his race massively, and these cars are built quite well. But we've seen Alex Smith with a drive-through now as well. So when we were saying he might bottle it, I think he might have done it again. So yeah, he's dropped from P11 to P24 currently. Saved his drive-through. Unfortunate to see, but maybe the next one, Josh. Maybe the next one.
Should I stop laughing? Should I stop smiling?
Yeah. We'll not slam him as much as he did the last round, but
no, he was nearly in tears last time.
Bless him. He's trying his best, Josh. He's trying his best.
Back on board with Gretschel now, with Madal closely behind. It looks like Madal's going for the inside into Spoons, and that braking power of the Ginetta just absolutely does him. But these two, I feel like they're going to be going back and forth. It's a bit of ice and fire between these two.
Yeah.
So I think that Alpina has slightly better straight line speed, and it's got similar cornering performance. But the Audi behind them it seems to be catching up at a rate of knots. Oh, it's a BMW. No wonder.
Yeah, no, the Ginetta and the Alpine seem to be quite evenly matched, and I think they are definitely more of a car that's suited to a tighter, twistier track with some more slower speed cornering. But you see that BMW close up. I mean, that BMW coming out of Spoon was probably about 5 car lengths back on this pair of cars, but closed right up along the back straight, and is now going to make the move on the Alpine. I think even round the outside, nothing you can do. Gretschel had moved over even to defend, but it was completely pointless. That BMW's just got so much grunt in comparison to these two cars. But back and forth with Schaefer again in that Maserati, and he's closed up to Eugenie, and this battle looks like it could be quite good if they can stay together for the next section, especially with that Maserati not having any real driver aids in comparison to its GT4 counterparts. And I know that's something you kind of enjoy in that car, don't you, Josh?
Yeah, never mind the battle. What's getting spicy is the sliding. You can see him getting all the slip angles to try and maximize grip, or he's just out there for a bit of fun, trying to slide that Maserati around, which it's so easy to slide. Even by accident, I do it all the time. Although I do that in any car, don't I?
Yeah, of course. I mean, you've got to get it a bit sideways. You've got to feel where the limit is, haven't you, Josh? I mean, that's the whole point of getting it sideways and like, oh yeah, that's the limit, and then get it back in line and get on the power. But it just seems like that Chevrolet of Eugenie just got a little bit more performance, a little bit more grip. So Schaefer doing a great job in that Maserati, and to be the only one in the field, it's hard to compare him against anyone else. But yeah, no, it's great to see it out on track and him just giving it a big lick of the loud pedal out with Spoons. So hopefully see a bit more of that throughout the race.
Well, Mardell's got nothing to counter Door going round 200R. Door was on the outside and he just breezed past Mardell. There's nothing he could do to counter it. And I think that's now Mardell going to be saying goodbye to Door as he blasts down the backstretch now onto 130R and into Casio Triangle.
Yeah, no, that BMW just showing how much grunt it's got in comparison to these cars. Even though that Ginetta has an all fiberglass body and and steel space frame chassis, rose jointed suspension, and it's very much more of a race car than all the other cars on track. It's very much designed to be a race car from the ground up. It still doesn't have an answer for these BMWs and Astons and Mercedes on the straight. So unfortunate to see, but I mean, we'll definitely be at a track at some point where these cars come true, and we'll see them battling the top boys. I'm sure of it, because I know Alex Smith, if anyone could do it, he could probably drag it up there at some point and drag it up to the top 10, which he almost did in qualifying. So there is potential in that chassis. It's just extracting it and being able to compete against the top boys in an hour and 20-minute long race.
Well, I agree. I mean, the fact that it's so light as well compared to the other cars, it doesn't chomp for its tyres constantly. As we see now, Sublum going slightly wide, that finally gives Clinch the opportunity to go past. So Clinch will be breathing a massive sigh of relief. But now Sublum's got Buchek behind him. And Buchek's currently the highest ranked guy at the moment in terms of people who've pitted. So he's going to want to get Emil out of the way as fast as possible. With Shepard going down the inside of Isaacs. It looked like it was a planned move, but I wonder if Isaacs went a little too deep on the braking zone and just ran a little wide. But that's given Shepard the perfect opportunity to go through the inside and get the move done. But these guys are fighting for position. They're in the same tier, but Shepard hasn't done his pit stop yet, whereas Isaacs has. So it's kind of it's a battle for fun at this point. For
exactly.
And Isaacs.
Interesting to see Shepard in that the Porsche. I believe he was in the Aston Martin in the previous round in the GT3 car. So decided to switch it up, move to a mid-engine rear-wheel drive car, and see how he gets on. He seems to be doing quite well. We covered a little bit of love to Shepard. He seems to keep plugging away in this series and just getting some results and not really getting anyone's way massively, but having a good race and enjoying himself. And that's what this is all about. And back on board with Buchek, P1 man going into the pits, and is P1 of the guys who have pitted. I think it's only Curtin that's maybe out front at the moment, and he hasn't pitted, but we have seen that from Curtin before, to leave it really late for a pit window. So be interested to see if he does the same again in this race. On board with Eugenie, Schaefer behind and Binesley in front, and these guys are definitely looking to battle. I think Eugenie has caught up this pack of Mercedes in front, so he'll be looking to make a move in that big old Chevrolet. Well,
what I've just discovered is I've got control again from Auto Director, so now I can pick the battles that we watch. So big sigh of relief, even though that the Auto Director was doing a fantastic job. But luckily it's now me, and we're focusing right now on this battle between Clinch and Buchek, but it looks like Clinch goes a little too wide. 2 does not go quite well into Degner 1. As we've seen before, but I mean,
Buchek has pitted. He was P1 going into this with a massive lead. He's now behind Clinch. Clinch, hasn't pitted, so this is for position. But at this point, he should realise that maybe he is quicker, and he almost did force. Oh, he pretty much forced Buchek off there at Degner 1. So maybe just think, maybe if I let him go, I can follow him, see where he's stronger and weaker, and maybe utilise that later in the race. So. Clinch definitely fighting Buchek there, but maybe you need to just let him have a little bit of breathing room and try and make a move. But it's still great to see. I mean, don't stop, guys, keep it going. But we'll see if that continues throughout the race. And Buchek has closed right up, but Sharp is holding off Madley at the moment, and that Porsche is looking very menacing in Madley's hands.
100%, but further down the order, got Nate Newcomer fighting Pater, and we've also got never mind, I saw someone fighting with him, but not anymore. But Pater is kind of hounding the back of Newcomer. They've been fighting each other for a little bit, but of course they're both in different tiers. They've both pitted, of course, but I don't know if that Alpina can hold off the Mercedes for long.
I think through this section, the S's, it can definitely hold its own, but I think once we start seeing it come through Dunlop towards Degner's, the Mercedes should close up a little bit now, and then as soon as they get through the hairpin, I think that Mercedes going through 200R has got the slight upper hand. I think if it were me, I'd just hold off till Spoon and get a good run on that Alpine into 130, and I think it should be done, to be honest. He just needs to plan ahead, hold off, maybe back up a little bit, and then just get a good run out the corner. So be interested to see if he does that, or what he decides to do in that Mercedes. But yeah, no, Peter's doing a great job, and we've seen Newcomer in a variety of different cars. We know he's in the BMW in the Constructor Series, and I think what was he in this series previously? I think it was a Porsche Newcomer was in. So he's switching it up quite a bit. I think he's back in the Porsche this time now.
I just spotted this battle. Had tons of red lights flashing at me to tell me to look at it, and I'm glad it flashed at me quite a lot. This is an absolute chaotic battle. We've got Alex Smith up in front. He's kind of pushed on a little bit ahead. But we've got Nielsen, Pinpoint, Binnersley, Eugenie, Schaefer. All 5 of them are desperately trying to make a position, but we're currently looking at Binnersley going for the position on Pinpoint, and he's going for the inside into the first corner and giving him a little nudge, but that's not quite right. That's not how you do it, Binnersley. And I don't know how he's held that, but it looks like he's going round for a second round.
This is BTCC right here.
It's probably BTCC, and that means Pinpoint has lost 2 positions. And he hits Schaefer, and he goes down into the barrier.
Oh no! Pinpoint is having an absolute nightmare of a race. He's been off in a few places, some of his own doing, and some, well, we saw that battle with Binnersley there. Binnersley was letting him know he was there, giving him a few love taps on the inside, and Pinpoint didn't enjoy that, and I think, contact with Schaefer there just says it all, but Binnersley's still making moves, trying to get around Nielsen, round the outside.
The outside, and Nielsen's Decna 1, but it looks like Eugenie was also tempted to have a look around the outside as well.
He was like, he was looking at Nielsen thinking, this could be my opportunity. But wow, Binnersley just charging through. He may get pulled up afterwards in the stewards for that one, but just asserting his dominance there, giving Pinpoint, a few little taps. And these cars can take that sort of thing. So really great to see there, engaging his inner British touring car driver. We'll see if Eugenie can do the same on Nielsen, but it's looking like Eugenie wants to make this move.
100%. Binnersley, he's not meant to be fighting these guys. I mean, they're in different tiers, but it looks like Nielsen slides the back of it too much, and that's given Eugenie the perfect run on him onto the back stretch, side by side currently now. I wonder if Eugenie can get ahead of Nielsen into 130R, but it looks like it might be a sideways squeeze into 130R, and it looks like it is. That's too wide, but luckily they give each other the perfect amount of space.
Exactly, that's some great racing there. Very, gentlemanly. I think Nielsen realised he'd lost the corner by that point, but I tried to go around the outside initially, but then was like, nah, you know what, I can't make that stick, so backed out of it and slotted into position. But looking up down the field, I could see Schaefer's back out on track, but I can't see Pinpoint, so maybe Pinpoint has decided he's had enough. Today's not been his race. Has decided to retire, and RWB cause saying Pin has got mugged. So
I think we can agree with that.
Yeah. It was definitely
Pinpoint's currently lying on the ground. He's in an alleyway, garbage cans everywhere, and he's currently bleeding out. That's what's happening.
Someone needs to revive him for sure. On board with Kaneko in the Porsche, trying to chase down Toledo in the Aston, but he's got. I think he's a lapped car. He's a lapped car because I think that Audi in front is further up the field. So interesting to see if he can maybe get a battle with Barakov behind in that bright green Ginetta. Green and orange, great colour combination, Josh. I mean, you can't go wrong.
Oh, really, James? Why is that?
It's just a great colour combination, Josh.
Sure. Currently looking at RWB Audi now having a go at Nielsen as well. When the camera decides to update into the hairpin, we can see what's going on. Audi gets a slightly better drive through the corner. He's going to go around the outside, try and get some more speed to carry on, but he slots back in behind him. Don't think anything's happening for now until we get into Spoon. Which, I've got a juicy helicam so we can see everything going on. Looks like it looks like he was kind of tempted by the switchback, but yeah, not today. But Nielsen goes wide again. Yeah. He's not a fan of that second part of the Spoon, is he?
Yeah, it's quite a tricky corner because you're so tempted to get back on the throttle through that second sort of the mid part of it. And maybe just touched it a little bit too much, tried to carry too much on the front end, and it just wouldn't have it. So that means he got to wait even longer. And he could see RWB Audi there checking up, trying to not make contact because he just got a better run through and should have really kept it a little bit tighter, try to get on the throttle a little bit sooner, and he probably would have got a move done, possibly down to the inside of 130R there. So he's probably just logged that in the back of his mind. He's thinking, okay, right, Nielsen's a bit weak through Spoon, but I don't think he cares at this point because it looks like he's setting up a move for turn 1.
Man, I'm biting my nails. I'm on the edge of my seat right here. I have no idea what's going to happen into here, but it looks like Aldi gets a much better line in, and I think Nielsen just seems a bit swamped at the moment. He's getting past left, right, and centre.
Yeah,
he just kind of needs to reset his head and go again.
Yeah, he's just looking to be consistent and just bang out those lap times. And you could see he's defending up to a point, but once the car was alongside him on his right hand side, he just decided, right, okay, he's there. I'm going to let him go, and I'm going to try and stick on the back of him and just work on doing as most consistent lap times as I can. But on board with Binners now, and
Nope.
It looked like he's.
Sorry, I'm swapping it.
Yeah, it looked like he passed Alex Smith there, so that
yeah
hadn't updated just then. So, yeah, great racing. I think that's Howell behind, possibly, because that might be a lapped car in that Aston behind Gretschel in the
That's correct.
Alpine. So.
Here's a tight battle right here for you, James. I know you love commentating tight battles. We've got Shepherd ahead, Pacer in the Merc, and Newcomer in that Alpine behind him. And this could be a very close three-way battle. Pacer, of course, he doesn't want to be tangled on this. He's a higher tier. This is below him. But he's still tangled up with him. And Shepherd, we know Shepherd's really good at these close battles. His pace, it's not up there with the top guys, but his racecraft is top-notch. But he's also got Newcomer as well. And we know, of course, as well, James, Newcomer's no slouch either. And Pater loves a good battle as well. So this could be spicy.
Oh, definitely. I mean, we saw Pater was behind Newcomer, I believe, in the Alpine earlier on, so he has made that move stick. But Newcomer has managed to stay with that Mercedes, reel in Shepherd, and now I think a three-way battle is going to ensue, because once Pater starts battling with Shepherd, that's only going to open the doors for Newcomer, and Newcomer just has to sit there and wait and think, when am I going to strike in this probably lower powered car? So you can see just how quickly Pater's just closed up to that Porsche. But Shepherd, he's no slouch, and I think he's got some decent racecraft under his belt. You see he's a bit more confident through 130R in that car, and pulls a bit more of a gap there into the Casio triangle. So going a bit deep though. So this is getting tight. Seeing some proper love taps coming out that corner there.
Well, actually benefited Shepherd because that gave him an excellent punt and a good boost of speed, because he's now got a hefty gap between him and Pater. And that kind of shifted Pater onto Newcomer's attention.
Yeah, no, it's been going really well, but Pater just unfortunately made a bit of contact with Shepherd there, and it's pushed him back into Newcomer, and these guys, they're bumper to bumper. So as soon as one of them checks up, the other one's got to check up even more. And wow, you can see how much the Alpine catches up in these S's. Just seems much more composed in these change of directions, with transferring the weight from left to right. And the Mercedes, obviously, big lumbering beast in comparison. So, this is an amazing battle, and Shepherd doing a great job of not losing his cool. Just doing his laps and defending where he needs to, but doing a great job out front in that Cayman.
Yeah, so I've got like a million things going on right now, but these guys are properly close. I'm also seeing a battle between Dirk Gretschel, David Durer, and Jay Madley as well. So those guys are really close together. I mean, Durer and Madley, they're pretty much setting identical lap times currently. But yeah, this battle right here, I think, is where we want to be with Pater, Shepherd, and Newcomer. Yeah, Newcomer's still hounding the back of Pater.
Yeah, it also looks like Carolier is closing in on Newcomer a little bit, and the Porsche behind. So I wonder if he's going to catch up and make it a four-way battle here between these guys. You can see a lot of fire and ice situation we talked about before, between these cars. The Mercedes closing up again on the exit of Spoon, and if he can get that throttle down, he's going to close up even just that little bit more down the back straight. So Newcomer's just got to stay in that tow and try and hold on to the back of him. Strap an elastic band around that Mercedes, and hopefully he can pull him along down this straight. But it does look like Carolier is closing in now on the Alpine there.
I'll quickly swap away to where I think there might be a battle happening. Yes, it's between Dan Barnett and Andre Mole. It looks like Barnett's managed to get ahead of Andre. No,
Nope.
never mind. I'm
Hull is ahead of
losing
the
my yeah. But
So
it's same car, same car. Sorry, yeah, I'm getting. There's so many numbers in front of me right now. It's like I don't even know what's going on. But there's also a battle happening between Dirk Gretschel and Isaacs as well. Gretschel's still not pitted, so this isn't really a battle for position at this point, as Isaacs has already pitted. I think he was he was quite early on. He pitted compared to the other guys. But yeah, these guys are just going. Well, they're just going nose to tail through all the corners. It doesn't look like any big change in timings between those guys. But yeah, it's keeping it close, keeping it nice.
Yeah. They can see just how strong that Beamer is in a straight line. Once that turbo spools up, it is just straight by. Yeah, just dominant. That BMW seems to be so quick in a straight line. And it just showing it again there against the Alpine, and we saw from Newcomer going through the S's how quick he was, but he was no match for Carolia because Carolia's already found his way past in the Cayman. So maybe these guys in the slower, lighter cars are definitely struggling on this track, but they'll be praying that the rest of the season is more in their favour, I think, and I think that's what we'd like to see as well, because it makes it very interesting when we see lots of different cars at the front end.
Definitely, I'm trying to keep up with all the battles because there's so many battles happening right now. I'm just seeing tons of gaps saying like 0.1 seconds, 0.2 seconds. I'm trying to prioritize.
I did see Varley up the front actually starting to possibly close in on the man in P4, so wondering if he's making use of that Aston's grunt further up the field on Pitwall Live. So definitely check that out in the description. He's been around this sort of gap between him and Carolia for a while now. I'm just wondering if he can maybe just start to pick away at Carolia and close in, and maybe Carolia might start making a few mistakes. But Shawbloom and Clinch still haven't pitted, and Sharp hasn't pitted, but Caden has now and is ahead of Buchek. But
how does he do this? How does he do this? He did this back at Imola, remember?
He does this. He manages to find that optimum time to pit. I mean, he did. I think one of the rounds he maybe
he did mess up slightly at Budapest, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think he left it a bit too long. But at Imola, he was so accurate when he was pitting, and he's done the same again this time, and it's just worked for him. But Buchek is definitely going to be hounding the back of that Porsche at some point in the next 12 minutes, and Caton just needs to keep him behind. If Caton's a great racer, we've seen him race really hard in Tier 1, and yeah, I mean, he's done it again with his strategy to pull it out the bag. I think he was P4 before the pit stops and has now come out P1 of the guys who have pitted, and is 4 seconds behind Sharp in P1 who hasn't pitted. So these guys, this is for the win. This battle right here now is for the win of this race. Pretty
much, yeah, and it's just so hard to pick between these battles. As I said, we've also got Rigel closing up to the back of Dave Crew. They were right behind each other on the timing screens when they were going through the 130 yard. But it looks like Rigel's in that BMW, Dave's in the Audi. So you never know. The Audi's not quite as strong as the BM on the straight, but it can get that really good initial launch out of the corners. And the balance of the car seems to be a bit better for coming up the corners and kind of making the most out of it.
You can just see how much he's closed in down the back end of the straight. He's got in the toe of that Audi. That turbo's spooled up on the Beamer, and it just starts to freight train it. But the Audi, naturally aspirated, has that initial pickup out of the corner. Power curve's just a little bit better lower down, and yeah, that's how Cruz kept Rigel behind there. And Cruz just looks a little bit more comfortable through the S's in that Audi. But coming up on one of the Alpines, I think it was Gretschel there, so it'll be interesting to see how that turns out. But on board with Clinch now with, I think it was behind him. Is that?
Could be Isaac.
Isaac wants the time balls. Yeah,
it's Isaac's.
Isaac wants the time balls update. So, we saw Clinch battling with Buchek earlier on, and maybe that's why Caton has managed to get past in the pit stop, because he got Buchek got held up by Clinch after his pit stop. So. That would be interesting to see, and whether that's brought up after the race at all. But it's good to see these guys racing, and Isaac definitely not holding any prisoners. He is looking for position. Even though he's a Tier 2 man, battling a Tier 1 man, that all goes out the window when you're on track, and when you've got 10 minutes left to go, you may as well start making some moves.
Yeah, for Clinch, as soon as Mardal gets out of the way for his pit stop, that gives him an opening to try and make a pass on Sam Snail Train, madly try and keep up. But we see Isaac's getting right up the exhaust pipe of Clinch there, and now he's got the drive of the BMW being absolutely a beast, just powering up on through to try and catch up again. Like, you can see the gap just closing and closing as he tries to catch up to him.
Even though Isaac didn't get a great run out of Spoon, he still managed to keep up with the Mercedes of Clinch there, and Clinch did a great job to keep it behind, but they're coming up on Howell, I believe, in that Aston, who is a lapped car. So how they're going to negotiate this is going to be interesting for sure. I don't know if Howell might just be a bit more gentlemanly and just let them go, or if he's going to maybe hold off a little bit longer, and that might allow Isaac to close back up on Clinch and see if he can make a move. But, you know, Rigel is closing out on Crew again. You can just see how much pace that BMW has in a straight line. And round the outside.
That's beautiful, absolutely beautiful.
Can he make it stick? Oh, what a move. Can he do it? Can he do it? And he's got the inside for turn 3 here. So, yeah, he's got it done.
Phenomenal move. Absolutely phenomenal.
What a move by Rigel.
That was masterclass right there from Rigel, getting past Crew. Not much Crew could have done, to be honest. He did all he could, and I wasn't expecting Rigel to hold that whatsoever. Yeah,
I mean, if benefit hindsight, coming into that second part of turn 1, the second apex, Crew should have just maybe not gone on the brakes hard, maybe just let it roll into that apex, and he would have been able to block Rigel from the apex and maybe wash to the outside for turn 3 coming into the S's, and that would have been the only way really to keep Rigel behind. But you could just see how much confidence in the brakes Rigel had there. So great to see moves like that around the outside, especially this late in the race. 8 minutes and 27 seconds to go, so all to play for these guys battling for position.
I felt we had to give some airtime to the Simply Sausages tip right now. That wasn't what I wanted. This was what I wanted. Buchek and Olivier Curtin.
Yeah.
Buchek is right up the back of Curtin. I don't know if Curtin can hold on for 8 minutes plus the other lap as well, because they don't finish on 10 minutes, but that is a little love tap from Buchek, kind of
letting
saying,
him know he's there.
Get on, move on. He's like, come on, hurry up.
Knocking on the door. Anyone home?
You can just see the gap between P1 and P2 to P3. There's a 19-20 second gap to P3, and it's absolutely mental how big that gap is.
Exactly. So if Buchek makes a mistake, he's still got time to recover, not under any pressure from behind, and just put the pressure back on Curtin. And you can just see that now, and they're coming up on a lapped car. One of the Porsches thankfully moves out the way, coming into the hairpin, but these guys are right on each other's bumpers. I'm sure that Mercedes will be sniffing that exhaust pipe of the Cayman, be able to tell what sort of octane fuel he's running at this rate. I mean, God, these cars are close, and Buchek has that Mercedes dialed. It looks like it's really behaving in his hands. I think Curtin maybe starting to feel the pressure a little bit now, but seems to be quite composed with Spoon. So that's what he needs, because I think the Mercedes might just have that little bit more straight line performance, a little bit more front, and it seems to be a little bit stronger through the mid to high speed corners. So 130R might be a problem for Curtin, and he needs to just keep an eye on that. But back on board with Varley, been making moves left, right and centre. He was down to like P10, I believe, so to be back in P4, doing a really good job. He's holding off Weaver behind in the same car in the Aston, and looking to make a move on Corolla possibly in these closing minutes.
Yeah, these guys are doing really well. It's still a really close battle for all the steps on the podium. I mean, P1, P2, if they don't make any accidents, I think at least those two, they'll have P1, P2. Maybe they'll change up a little bit, but the bottom step of the podium is still hotly contested between these three. There's no way what's going on. But Varley, he makes the right decision of not compromising the other drivers. And goes for the runoff area. He won't get a drive-through penalty or a track cut warning for that, because he did lose time. So it's not the end of the world for Varley, but that does mean he's now stuck behind Weaver, as Weaver's now going to have another go at Corolla to try and get that P3 position.
Buchek has closed back in on Curtin. He was 0.3 seconds down, now he's 0.1 seconds down. It looks like he's really going after the back end of that Porsche through the S's again, right on the back of it. So maybe Caton just struggling for the performance of that car, maybe through the front tyres, maybe getting a bit worn out, struggling with a bit of front end push, or maybe he's just rotating a bit too much. We'll have to look a bit harder and see how the cars are behaving. But Buchek just seems to have that Mercedes dialed and absolutely wants this win. You know, he's closed that gap again, so he just needs to nail this. I think the place where he could possibly get it done is coming into 130 and Casio triangle. So he needs to play, you know, mental games a little bit at the moment and try and find Caton's weakness. And we haven't seen many mistakes from Caton in the past. And with his calls on strategy, he just seems to get himself in front of these guys who are exceptionally quick and hold them off. And we're seeing that again. So Caton just living up to his name as Mr. Strategy.
Yeah, it's not often we see a lot of kind of tactical decision making being made, because I mean, at the end of the day, if they're just here to race, it's not a super serious league. There's not money on there's not money being given out by the organisers for this. There's no prize given officially. Maybe they'll have some bets going on in the background. But there's nothing official, so it is just a good, like, it is a bit of fun in the end. But we see Buchek giving a little bit of a love tap to Curtin again. He's just constantly letting him know he's there, doesn't he?
He's just giving it the good old the love tap on the rear. Just he's keeping Curtin honest. He's letting him know he's there. You know, and some of the, as we say, the British touring cars, you'd see that left, right, and centre. You know, they're constantly giving each other hell for leather in the corners and taking chunks out of each other, and you can do that more with these cars. You know, the aero isn't as crucial, but you know, I think that's Shepherd there possibly just trying to stay out the way of this battle, but it's given Buchek an opportunity to close right back up again for coming through the S's, and we've seen how confident he is in that Mercedes through here. It seems like Curtin struggles a bit more through the S's, through the changes of direction. Obviously, he might not have the adjustability in the car that he wants, like he has had in the past with the GT3 cars. So it'll be interesting to see how these cars develop over the rest of the season and what they can extract performance-wise from these cars. But these guys are right on each other's bumpers, and it's just amazing to see, especially 3 minutes to go. I mean, it's an hour and 20, and it's, you know, they're 2/10 apart. Unbelievable.
It's absolutely mental. I want to show some of the other guys further down the grid a little bit of love as well, because it's not just the top 5 guys who are fighting. We've still got Emil fighting off Clinch, and it looks like Clinch is going for the outside of Emil, but Emil breaks slightly later. But can Clinch get the cutback? Looks like he could, but unfortunately Emil turns in just a tad too early for that. But luckily nothing of value was lost.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, these guys are still racing, still got their positions. You know, Clinch is going to try and close in the back of Schublum, but Schublum just showing he's got that defensive skill, and he's quite comfortable placing that BMW, and he just needs to keep that Mercedes behind, because now Clinch is coming under pressure from Isaac behind, so he's going to be wanting to find a way through soon, and he's showing his intent with that little tap at turn 1. So looking for a move, whether it'll happen at Degner here could be very interesting. The late end, the BMW has a bit more performance in the brake, so pulled away a little bit through there, but definitely showing intent, and it'll be interesting to see if Isaac can capitalize on this. Sky stuck behind Crew at the moment, so these guys have been, I think, battling for a little bit, and Caletta showing how plucky that Janetta is through the corners, just able to show the nose there on the exit. Even it's got that much front end grip, can just grip up and try and make a move. So it'd be interesting to see if he can get that done by the end, but we've got 1 minute 30 to go, so these guys are not going to be holding any quarters here. They're going to be fighting right to the end.
Someone who is fighting is Tom Weaver, trying to hold off Phil Varley on the straight. Phil's got the slipstream, pulls out to the outside. We've seen that fantastic move from Rigel on the outside, so who knows, but it doesn't look like Phil can kind of keep it around the outside of Tom. Tom covers the inside off very well. And yeah, it looks like they're going to have to sit behind each other through the S's once more.
Exactly, and I think that Weaver just has to keep it clean now. I think Caroli in front has just got a little bit more breathing room, has the opportunity to make 1 or 2 mistakes. If Weaver does that, Varley's just going to pounce and try and take that move, and someone who is going to try and pounce is Buchek, because he hasn't got long left to make this move. And I think this maybe is the final lap.
It is the final lap.
Yeah,
That is correct.
by the time the clock goes down, I think that'll be before they reach the start-finish straight. So this is do or die for Vucek to get this place back. I mean, someone who's been commanding this race from the start, to have so much of a gain, and to see just Curtin pull that move of strategy again, like he has done at Imola in the past, just you know, it is a bit demoralising for him possibly, that he maybe got caught up in a bit of traffic as well. So Curtin just needs to hold it together and through these last few corners, and he's got the win again.
I'm just astounded. How does he pull this off time and time again? I have no idea how, but you know, if it works for him, it works for him. But
exactly.
Last chance for Vucek to try and make the move done. Olivier Curtin goes a little bit deep. That's given Vucek the run he needs to go down the final straight final time to the checkered line. Olivier Curtin giving just enough room for Vucek, but that looks like Curtin's won it. No idea how. Phenomenal race, but the race isn't over. We've still got these guys going for the move as well. Got Phil Varley going on the inside of Carolia, but Carolia sticks it on the outside. Looks like he's got P4 in the bag with Tom Weaver in P3, and that's P5 for Phil Varley.
Yeah, Carolia was P3, so he's dropped down. He must have made a mistake, and he had breathing room, but just, you know, he's lost the position to Tom Weaver, and unfortunately Varley couldn't capitalise on that that racing there. But Sharp and De Hoer here battling till the end, but it looks like that Mercedes has just got enough grunt to the line to keep it in control. But yeah, no, it was 8 thousandths between P1 and P2, so it just shows how close they were after 1 hour and 20 minutes. But Clinch still looking to the inside of Schublem here, makes a last lap dive, shows in the door, but I don't know if he can't.
I don't think that was.
That was very optimistic at best. Coming into the last corner, and that Beamer seems to be a little bit more comfortable under the brakes. So he tried, he gave it a go. No one really lost out there. I mean,
no, you might as well.
I'm sure Schublem was probably saying a few profanities, getting hit there, but yeah.
Here we go, side by side between Dor and Crew as they go through. Oh no, wait, is it? It looks like it is. That was side by side going across the line, and it looks like Sky has won that one out very close across the line. Between those two, I'm trying to find more battles. That's Andre Mole going through Godzilla and all that. Where's more fighting?
The Audi, possibly, yeah.
Yeah, we've got Nielsen and FX currently fighting it out to try and get across the line. I think it's too late for FX with the Simply Sausage sponsorship on his car. For FX.
Yeah, amazing. Livery, definitely.
Does he win livery of the day, James?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's definitely a talking point for this race. But some great racing, and Gretschel. Wow, these guys
still fighting as they come across the line. This is going to be a photo finish, isn't it? What? They're still going. No, don't lift off. That's not the exit. No. And there we go. That is the end of the race.
Wow.
Wow. Dirk, you could have had it, mate, but
he just lost it on the throttle. What was he doing?
I think he thought the finish line was further back.
Yeah.
And it wasn't the start line. But
amazing race. That was an amazing race.
Oh, it was brilliant fun.
I think that's probably one of the best races I've commentated on and seen from RWB. So, yeah, that was amazing to watch.
Absolutely phenomenal. I've loved that every step of the way. Absolutely brilliant racing all the way through. James, I'm gonna try something new. Who would be your driver of the day?
Driver of the day. I'd have to see the standings, but I'm trying to think. I think, you know, Curtin pulling off that strategy move again to be so far back before the pit stop to come out in front and hold off Vucek just shows, you know, what a character he is. And I'd like to put him up there and Varley as well. I think coming back from incidents and coming through the field again just shows his determination. So there's so many names up and down this field that have just really shone through today, and it's just been great racing. I mean, I don't think I could nail down one, to be honest. There's been so many good drivers and good racing out on track that I couldn't name one.
Fair enough. For me, it would have to be between Varley and Rigel. I mean, I can't believe Rigel pulled off that move. I've no idea where that came from. I'm still astonished. I have to go back and watch it again because I have no idea how that happened. But yes, next week. Well, I can't even remember where we are next week. I think we're at. Where is it? Jeez, man. Oh, I can't even remember where we're at. I believe it's Bathurst next week on February 13th. So, yeah, I'm correct. It's February 13th at Bathurst. So, yeah, thanks for joining us, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the racing as much as we did. It was an absolute delight and a pleasure to be commentating for you guys. I'm also grateful that the cameras are working this week as well. So, we actually got to see all the action, which I don't know how we kept up with that action on track. But yeah, any last words, James?
Just to say just how good that GT4 racing is. I mean, it just shows that you don't necessarily need to be in GT3 cars to have a good race. And if anything, I think the racing's been better in the GT4 cars. So but I think I'll just leave it with that, and hopefully we'll see more from RWB over the next few weeks.
Well, I agree with you, James. We've got GT4 action coming up on Tuesdays and Saturdays. We have the Constructors' League coming up on Tuesdays for the second part. I believe that starts not this week, but the following week on the 16th of Feb.
16th, yeah.
Yeah, so my maths is all right after all that. If you enjoyed the action today, be sure to subscribe to the RWB YouTube or follow it on Twitch, wherever you're watching us from. And yeah, if you want to join in on the action, Discord links on the stream right now. And yeah, thanks for joining us. And well, don't race alone, race RWB.